Hey everyone, Savannah here, and today we're sketching a cozy little scene featuring a black cat and a glowing crystal ball. I'm using my custom Procreate brushes, which you can find in the description down below, as well as a link to the color palette and the outline that I used in this video. Let's jump in and bring this magical cat to life. Let's go ahead and change that background, so go into layers, select background color, and in the crystal cat color palette, we're going to grab this orangish brown color, then create a new layer. Bring that layer below the outline layer and grab this dark gray color. We're going to add a window here to the right, and so we're just going to be using a square brush for this. Just a regular square brush, you don't have to use the blender or anything like that. We're just going to use a square brush for that and fill in the shape of the window here. Now let's go ahead and create another new layer. So go into layers, click that plus, and that will create that new layer. We're going to drag this below the window we just created. Grab that teal color in the color palette right next to the one we just used, and we're just going to fill in that window with that teal color. Now on that same layer that we added that teal window, we're going to grab this orange color. It's a little bit lighter orange, not the one we used. It's lighter on the right there on the color palette. We're going to do the top of this table here, this orange color, and then we're going to work on the side and down below. So we're going to grab that dark brown color next. That's going to be the front of the ledge here, and then we're going to grab an even darker color for below. It's going to be a dark purplish gray color, and we're going to add that down below. And right now we're really just placing colors. We're not going to do too many details quite yet. We will add a little bit of detail to the table here, to the back wall there and the window, but not too much. So now let's go ahead and create a new layer. Grab that almost black color, the circle brush, and let's go ahead and trace and fill in the shape of our cat. Now you may notice as you're filling in the color of the cat, you're no longer able to see the outline. Don't worry, I'll show you a trick that we can use that you can start seeing it again. But for now, just go ahead and fill the shape in. Like I mentioned, we'll fill in most of the shapes here before we start adding detail. Once we start adding detail, then we can switch this outline over to a way that you'll be able to see. Now, because it is hard to see that outline, I'm just going to head and turn that cat layer off so that I can add the witch's hat here. So I'm using that dark purple color again, the same one that we used down below in the image. And I'm just going to trace and fill in the shape of the hat as well. And now that we have that filled in, let's go ahead and turn our cat layer back on just so that we can see the composition of this image. Now we're going to add in our crystal ball. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. We're going to have this on top of all the other layers. I'm grabbing this light yellowish white color, and I'm going to do the circle here. Now to do a nice circle like I just did, you draw the circle as best you can, and then you hold that down with the Apple Pencil and then tap your finger on, or hold your finger down on the screen, and it'll create a perfect circle for you. So that's what I did here. And then I'm just moving it around, adjusting it to be more centered on where the image is. And then I'm going to grab this dark black color, and we're going to add the base to this crystal ball. I did do this on a separate layer because we're going to add details to the crystal ball, and I didn't want to add that dark black there because I'd have to be mindful of adding in colors and details. So I didn't want to do that. I want to keep them on two separate pages because it's going to be much easier. And I said pages, but I meant layers. Now we're going to go ahead and alpha lock all of the layers here. I didn't alpha lock the cat layer because I'm deciding if I want to have hair-like texture around the edge or if I want to keep it pretty straight line. So I'm going to keep that unlocked for now, but all the other layers I set to lock. And then I'm just going to add some details, like I mentioned, to the background here, this back wall. So I just grabbed a darker brown of the brown color that we used. I'm grabbing that square blend brush. I'm just playing with texture on the wall here. I end up not doing too textured. I just kind of do a more of a blend, as you can see in the bottom left, but feel free to play with the texture if you want to add a little bit more interest to the wall. I just ended up, like I said, doing kind of a gradient from this light brown to this darker brown color because that's just what I wanted to do for this image. It was just looking a little busy. Now on the same layer, we have all those other details. So I'm going to just grab that grayish color and add a little bit of detail on the surface of the counter here. I am going to do the shadow of the cat separately later. So if you want to do that now, you can on that layer, but I'm going to do a blend mode for that. And then I'm just grabbing some color just to give a little bit of interest to the front of that ledge there, and then up underneath. So I'm just grabbing slightly lighter colors. I'm using that square blend brush. I'm just very lightly pressing down on the Apple Pencil to bring some of those colors in. Now, similarly with this window area, I grabbed that teal that we used for the inner part of the window, and I'm just kind of bringing that up along the edge here. And now let's go ahead and color to the crystal ball. So I'm pulling in a bunch of different colors for this. I have a light teal, I have that darker teal, I'm doing purples and pinks. I'm using that circle blend brush to just add color to the surface here. So I'm just adding splotches around the ball. And then what I'm going to do is go in with a couple of the colors from the background. So that brown wall in the background, or that orangish brown wall, I'm going to pull that color in and go around the edge on the top there to make it look like that wall is passing through because it's a crystal ball. I still want a little bit of that pass-through look, like you're looking through it a little bit, but I wanted to add a bunch of fun colors as well. So I'm adding a little bit of that orangey brown color to the top here to make it look more like a actual crystal ball. And then I'll grab some of that coloring from the tabletop here that the cat's resting on along the bottom. And feel free to just keep adding color, building it up until it's looking how you want it to look for this crystal ball. Now I'm going to go back over with this lighter teal because I want to lighten it up a little bit. And then with this white color, I'm just going to add a little bit of this reflective glare on the surface so it looks like it is a crystal ball that's reflective glass surface. And now I'm just going to add a little bit of this light yellow to the top of the stand that this crystal ball is standing in just to give it a little bit of texture. And now let's work on the hat the cat is wearing. I'm going to pull in some lighter purple to the right area, a little bit on the brim, and then I'm going to add a band to this as well. And we're going to blend all of this out as we go. So I'm using that circle blend brush for this. And now I'm just going to pull that dark purple back in just to blend it out even further. And now I'm going to add the band to the hat here. I'm doing it directly on the same layer because we're not doing too many details. We're pretty much done with the hat after this. I'm just going to do it all on that same layer. And I'm going to use a dark brown color, that circle brush, and then I'll go over with the circle blend brush a slightly lighter color just to give it, again, more interest so it's not just one color. Now we're going to work on the cat layer. And like I mentioned, we are not able to see the outline with the dark color on dark. So go to your outline layer, select alpha lock for that layer, grab one of the lighter colors. I just grabbed that light yellow color, and then go back to your layer and click fill layer. That's going to change the outline so it's not black. It's going to be this lighter color. And now we can work on the cat. And now I did create a new layer. I'm going to work on the cat's eyes here. So I just grabbed this teal green color and I'm just going to fill in the shape of the eyes. And again, this is on a new layer directly above the layer that we filled in the cat's shape. And I did accidentally have the circle blend brush selected for this, but I'm going to switch over to the circle brush just to make sure that everything's filled in properly. Now go ahead and grab that reddish pink color. We're going to add the nose on that same layer as the eyes. And then I'm just gonna erase the edge with the erase brush. In the erase brush, I'm using that circle brush as well. Sometimes I use the um, soft brush that's with Procreate, but for this one, I'm just gonna use the brush that I created. And now we're going to add some of the fur to the surface of the cat here. And I did set to alpha lock because I'm adding in color variation first. If I want to do hair, I can unlock it and add that, which I might. Still, I'm debating if I want to. But I have a couple of different colors that we can use for the fur here. I'm starting with this medium green color. So we started with a very dark, almost black green color. Now I'm going in with this medium green color here to give it those midtones, and then I have an even lighter greenish blue color that will do for the highlights. So I'm thinking with the placement of this crystal ball, a lot of the cat's face and hands or the paws are going to be a little bit lighter because they're in that light of the crystal ball. So we're just going to keep building up these layers here. So using that circle blend brush, just keep adding in these midtones, these highlights, and then if it gets too bright, don't be afraid to bring it back down a little bit with that dark, almost black color. You can go right over it with that blend brush very easily, and you can play with the pressure sensitivity of this brush that I created. So as you put more pressure down, you'll have more of that pigment of the color you have selected on the screen. And if you do a little bit lighter, it's going to blend a little bit more nicely. So as you can see here, some of my brush strokes, I am going a little bit more heavy-handed because I want to pull more of that color in. But other strokes I'm doing a little bit lighter because I just want a little bit, I want to tone it down just a little bit with these colors. So I'm just going to go through, add in some of the midtones, some of the highlights to the cat and start really building up the face of the cat and the paws and more of the fur on the cat. And I'm going a little bit lighter. I will brighten up a lot of the face here. We're going to add a layer to using a blend mode will lighten it up even further, give it a little bit more glow. But I'm going a little bit lighter, just kind of seeing where I want the placement of these colors to be before I go in more with the colors, more with that lighter color as well. Now I have most of those midtones placed on the cat. I'm going to go in with the lighter tone and I'm going to just keep building up the layers here. So I'll go in with the light. Maybe I go in a little bit too heavy-handed, so I'll pull in some of the other colors. It's just a lot of building up these layers until it's looking how you want it to look for this image. So again, if you go too light or too dark, you can easily pull in one of the other colors or even the midtone color to bring those colors down or brighten them up. It just depends on, as you're building up these layers, where you might need to tweak it. So we're just going to keep building up the layer here, adding in the highlights and these midtones and then darkening areas that we want to for this cat. And now on a new layer above the hat layer, I'm going to extend this front ear here because I want it to be in front of the hat. And when I did that, I like the texture of the ear. So I am going to go around the edge of the cat layer and add in the hairs along the edge. I just like the look of it. If you want to do that, you can do this at the step now. Or if you like how the cat is looking currently, you don't have to do this layer or this technique if you don't want to. But I'm just going to go around and do that around the edges of the cat here. And if you do decide to do that, make sure you turn that layer alpha lock off so that you can add edging to this cat. Otherwise, if you still have it set to alpha lock, it's not going to do anything. And then once you have the edging down how you like, go ahead and turn that layer back to alpha lock so we can continue adding details if you need it. Or if you are good with your details, you don't have to, but I definitely need to add some pink to this inner ear here because it is visible from this side. So I'm just adding a little bit of pink there, and then I'm just going to touch up around the edge on the top layer. So I added this to the actual cat layer, that pink color, and then I'm just kind of blending this in a little bit more with the top layer that we did for the ear that's over top the hat. And I'm just going to go through again, lightening up certain areas that I think got a little bit too dark, darkening areas that have got too light, and I'm just going to go through and touch everything up. Now let's go ahead and add detail to the eyes here. So go ahead and go to that layer, set it to alpha lock, and we're just going to grab this dark black color and add the inner part of the eye. And then we're going to add a little bit of white glossy shine to the eye as well. And I'm going to use that light yellow color for this because I want to pull in some of that color from the crystal ball because that's what's reflecting off of the eye. Now I am going to add whiskers to this cat. I'm using the blend brush for this, and I'm still using that light yellow color. Now I made them a little too thin here. I didn't like it, and I also wanted this to be on the layer that the cat is on. So I'm going to switch over to that layer, and I'm going to turn that alpha lock off and add the whiskers here for the cat. Now on a new layer above the cat layer, we're going to add some glow, but I'm going to merge down the eye layer on the main cat layer just so that those are on the same layer when we add this glow. So just go ahead and click that eye layer, merge it down, and then with the new layer above the cat layer, we're going to set that to clipping mask and grabbing in a bunch of the colors from the crystal ball. So that light teal color, the dark teal, and that red color, we're just going to go along the surface of the cat here. And I am using that circle blend brush for this. I'm just adding splotches similar to how we did the crystal ball. I'm just adding splotches to the cat surface. And now that we have these splotches here, I'm going to do a Gaussian blur on this. We're also going to do a blend mode on it, so don't worry that it's covering the face. So go into layers when you're done with that blur, and then click on the N, and you can pick which color you or the blend mode. I did color dodge for this, and then I'm going to do the same with the actual crystal ball. I'm going to do a blend mode for this and a Gaussian blur. So make sure you turn that alpha lock layer off, duplicate that crystal ball. I started with color dodge. We'll see if I end up with that one. I turn the brightness down, but I'm going to go in and do that Gaussian blur as well so that it has a little bit more of a glow effect. And now I'm just going to merge down all of the background layers together, and then I'm going to add in a shadow. So on a layer right above it, I'm going to set that to clipping mask. I'm going to grab a dark blue color for this. I'm just going to add color underneath the cat and a little bit under the crystal ball. And I'm also doing a Gaussian blur on this, and then I'll go through and add the blend mode. So it looks really weird having it be this blue, but don't worry, we'll set it to multiply in the blend mode and it'll look a little bit more natural. And then you can bring down the opacity on that layer as well. And now I'm going to do one more new layer on top of this background layer. And I'm going to do the same effect we did to the cat. So I'm going to grab in these colors from the crystal ball and add a little bit of a glow to this area. So just place a bunch of colors here and there on the surface here. You don't have to do all of them if you don't want to. Do that Gaussian blur, and then we can change the blend mode. And I did overlay for this section. I didn't do color dodge for it. It just depends on the surface and what you want it to look like. So that's why I changed it here, but you can do color dodge if you want. You can do overlay. You can do overlay for the other ones if you want to as well. But play around with the different options until you find the one that you like. Now I am going to tweak the face of the cat again. I wanted to make it look a little bit brighter on certain areas, so I'm just going to go back in, add some more color. I'll do a Gaussian blur at the end, so every time you add color, it's going to not automatically be blurred. So just make sure you know that going into this, that if you add more color, you're going to have to do a Gaussian blur again, which is fine. It'll just add a little bit more depth to it. So I'm just going to go in, add some lighter colors. I want it to be a little bit brighter in some areas, and then I'm going to pull in some other of the other colors that we have here as well. So I'm going to work on that, and then we'll do the Gaussian blur, and then we'll be pretty much done with this drawing. Now I'm happy with how this is looking. I wanted to more accentuate the features of the cat, whereas before with the color, it was more splotchy over the face. If you like that version, you can do the more splotchy look, but I wanted to kind of accentuate the features of the cat here. So I'm just going to tweak a little bit more of the settings here, the Gaussian blur, a little bit more of the brightness of this layer. We're just going to mess around with it, and then we'll be pretty much done. And with that, we are done with our drawing. Thank you so much for sketching along with me. I hope you had as much fun bringing this cat to life as I did. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also leave a comment down below letting me know what kind of cozy witch art you want to see next. I'll see everyone in the next video.